Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
The second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. Got Devin Gordon with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
Monday, November 13th. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. I'm Jimmy here with Chris and Jay-Z. Happy Monday. The 2023 season is officially over. We're going to talk about that, the last final showdown at BAPS this past weekend. And then we're also going to go into our report cards that you guys voted on. We almost had 100 responses, which is awesome. So we're going to have a really good measure of what you guys think of every one of these drivers that we're going to go over. And then some, we're also going to go over your honorable mentions. So, gentlemen, how you guys doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, man, I'm ready to go. This is gonna be fun. I'm excited to see what rabbit holes this takes us down. I'm excited for what we can argue about, and I'm excited for what the fans think. It should be a good time.
There was a lot of interesting honorable mentions, and there were some interesting results, I thought, specifically with one driver that we'll go into. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you put all of your, join the conversation here in the chat. Jack's on. What's going on, man?
Hey,
he was a 602 driver on Saturday.
from car led a few laps early there, and he faded, and then was coming back to the front there at the end. Leader had really checked out, but he was catching that second, into the to contend for that win. So good run.
Well, let's start there. Let's start with BAPS Saturday. $25,000 to win, final showdown. A lot of money up for grabs. Got to give BAPS so much props for putting so much money up on Saturday for a mid-November race. $25,000 to win. It was $10,000 for second. There was lap money for leading laps. All sorts of stuff like that. I think it was like $1,500 or $1,200 to start, or $1,000. I don't know. Either way, it was a good payout for an unsanctioned November race here in PA. Really awesome, and the fan turnout was great. That place was not sold out, but like it was pretty full. I mean, I've been going to that race for a few years now, and that's definitely the most people I've seen there at that race. Weather definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean most fans at that race in a long time, and most cars. I'm so happy that drivers have finally the last two events at BAPS really showed out. 37 and 45,
45. At 45.
45 cars in the last two 410 shows there. And listen, I've said this before. I think it was at the Dirt Classic, right? Pretty good money throughout the field in that race to start, and it really was a very disappointing car count. These teams can't bitch about money and show up money and spread money throughout the field and then not show up for a race that has it. So shout out to the teams for showing up too
Yeah.
and trying to put their hat in the ring to make that money to start at the end of the season. I hope if tracks take note of what BAPS did this weekend, had a good win for the good winner's purse. Okay, doesn't need to be 50 grand, but a good winner's purse makes it worth it and great money throughout the field with some of this other contingency money. Quick time was $1,000 each
Yeah.
heat winner. There was lap money. The drivers need to support it. Even if you go there and you're like, hey, maybe I'm not a guy who'll make the show, go support the race because you can't then on the other side of it, bitch, go, well, for weekly, we're racing for peanuts.
Mm.
You can't have it both ways. So kudos to the teams for showing up. This is a positive thing.
Yeah.
I'm in that mode of like, you can't have it both ways if you're on the team side of it, right? And the fans showed up. The fans showed up. The weather, it was cold. But they showed up and they got to see a hell of a show.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Once the sun started going down, I thought it was going to get colder quicker. It actually didn't. It actually stayed pretty nice.
Yeah.
It was about almost 50 degrees most of the time. I left before the Enduros because I had a hell of a drive home. I kind of wanted to watch that, but 45 cars. You had some outlaws. You had Logan Schuchart, Jacob Allen, Brock Zierfoss. You had Garrett Williamson coming in from the Midwest, running the 39. You had Chase Randall coming in running the 58. So you had a good mixture of not just PA local, not the normal BAPS. You had the normal BAPS roster, and then you had these guys too. So made it really interesting. Justin Peck was starting on the pole of the feature and had to pull off. You were there. You said you heard the I don't know what happened.
Yeah, he idled by during the warm up laps and just came to a stop off turn 4 and never came back out. So I don't know if it shut off during that. He was idling around, everything looked fine. I thought when he stopped, there was like he saw something on the track. He had a belt loose, whatever, and then I just saw him doing this, and then they said he didn't come back out. So
Yeah.
I can only assume, obviously, something pretty catastrophic in the drive line. Fuel, who knows? But it shut down, and he unfortunately didn't even get to start. So, kind of, man, I hate it for him because that's how his whole season kind of went. So, just a shitty end for that, and I'm sure they're looking forward to 2024 and rebounding with some wins next year.
James Hilligus asked, any World of Outlaw shows or high limit at BAPS? I know, pretty sure the Outlaws are going back. That's been
Outlaws will be back.
the word. I'm not sure about high limit, but we'll see. But just keep reading here. I guess he was supposed to. Peck was supposed to start third. My bad. Troy started on the pole.
Correct.
And
right.
He went out, led 27 laps. It was one of the more fun races I've seen at BAPS. Them getting through traffic. From like 8th to 12th was like a great battle between like Macri, Lance, Borden, Moody, Schuchart. It was a really good battle back there as the leaders were going through lap traffic. Danny Dietrich charged his way up from 7th, and late race restart after Mark Smith broke on lap 27. Ensuing restart, Danny throws the slider on Troy and clears it and runs away and gets to $25,000. I was a little bummed because I wanted to see Troy win, but the crowd went bonkers as anytime Danny wins. It was pretty, that was pretty awesome. And it was good for Danny. It was a good way to cap off the season. I know it was, and we're going to get into probably grades and stuff here later. Probably not the season that they were hoping for, but $25,000 should probably help maybe soothe some of those pains that maybe they had from the season. Aaron Boehlinger, we saw him before, and we're like, oh, what car are you running? And he said that 19, and then there he is, hard charger from 16th to 2nd, taking home 10 grand.
Just couldn't be more happy for that guy, man. Like I think he has all the ability. He just has to like put it all together. We've talked to him here on the show, and he doesn't come from a huge racing background, and he just sort of like him and his dad just sort of do it on their own, and not tons of help. And he got an opportunity to drive for Travis Escher at the end of the year, and he re-signed for 24. And there was a connection made to this 19 team, and put the seat in it, and went and ran, and jumps in the damn thing and goes 16th to 2nd against that field of cars.
Yeah.
Just an unbelievable showing. To be honest, very impressive.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Chase Dietz ran up front pretty much the entire race. I think he finished 4th or 5th. Jacob Allen was right there. He had a good run. There was a Sienna B main. Trying to think of all I know is Brock Zierfoss was behind Kenny Edkin and Michael Millard in his heat, times behind them. No disrespect to either one of those guys, but wouldn't really expect that. Some good cars missed that field, that's for sure. But it was a good field from top to bottom. But yeah, Danny won in the 25K. I don't really have anything else to talk about on that. It was a great show.
The track ended up really good. It was somebody mentioned, they started late. The track was very, very heavy, and they ran a whole bunch of hot laps for the modifieds to try to get the top layer off. And the track was very fast. They almost set a track record in time trials. And then Justin Peck, by the way, started on his pole of the heat, jumps the heat race, gets penalized back to 3rd, drives back to the lead and wins by a straightaway. And during that race, he was within a couple hundredths of the track single lap track record time during a heat race. Just wiped that heat race. I mean, I think he drove pissed off is what it looked like to me. But the track was very fast, very long. So hey, Adam White in our chat, a couple of the guys talked about the track was fast. It was heavy. Some of the guys were even set up like the enduro cars said, guy was just spinning. The track was too wet at the end of the night. Now again, whole different deal, but like street tires on a front wheel drive car, said he was just spinning the tires. It was too wet for them, and it finally came at the end of their race. So the track was fast all night, but for the 410s, it widened out. They could run the top, they could run the bottom, they could slide each other. So I'll go. I don't think I'm walking out on much of a limb here, but BAPS has had an exceptional racetrack the entire season, but one 410 race.
Yeah,
and it was the one that people might remember at the beginning of the year. Didn't go well. Every other race there this year with sprint cars was fantastic that I was at. And I know, like, listeners, guys that run there weekly, that probably could attest. Maybe they had some other nights where it wasn't great. It was whatever, but it was very good. And it ended up being good too. Colton really knows. I think he's really gotten a very comfortable with that surface and knows what it needs when it needs it. And they took the time to do that. So I was happy. If it started late, we got a better show, I'm in.
Yeah. Just the whole event. They had the chili cook-off the night before. They had a lot of campers. They had stuff going on most of the day. All the merch trailers and everything like that. And it was just a really good. It felt like an event. It was a good promotion job. Very good.
Wait, what?
How do you say that? Promotion.
Promotion.
Was that what that's what they did.
We talked about it early in the year. BAPS has been probably second in the area as far as really pushing their events and being aggressive, getting people to show up, even for their Saturday night shows, which is their core. But they're right there behind Port Royal as far as being aggressive and building hype around events week to week. So it's good to see that it's working and getting fans and teams there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could have bought tickets early, get them for less than half price than you would have day of show.
There's nobody in the area doing that. There's
Yeah,
nobody
that's what I'm saying.
doing that. You get to if you look up the BAPS shows, they do that for almost every race, 410 race especially, any big race. You buy them early enough, you're gonna get like half off that ticket price. Fans, put your money where your mouth is.
Yep.
Buy the damn tickets early. Get in line. Get the tickets. Save the money. Everyone else is bitching about ticket money. Call how much it costs a family. Shame on you if you don't buy those tickets early
Yeah.
and save half. Shame on you. So
Shout
same
out
thing.
Ryan.
It goes both ways. Not just teams and drivers showing up for that stuff, but fans also doing that.
I missed on the half off. I kept meaning to do it. I'm like, oh, I'll do it, and then I missed it. And
Shame on you,
unfortunately,
Jimmy.
Ryan Smith couldn't go, and I bought 2 tickets off of him, $15 each, which is what he paid earlier. Like that's cheaper than most weekly races, but almost all the weekly races. You know what I mean? So to go see something like that, and that's them going out on a limb too. You know what I mean? Because they need to make that purse money up somewhere. I mean, I know with sponsorship and everything too, but that's them going out on a limb there. So they did a fantastic job all day. I did think they gave the sportsmen, it felt like a half an hour of hot laps, but I kind of understand why, because the track was so heavy and they didn't have any heat races or anything. It was a makeup feature, I think, from earlier in the year. Or
It may have been, but it was invite only. It was 18 cars. They brought them out for 2 different hot lap sessions, and I don't know if the first hot lap session was in the right order. I thought it was sprint car hot lap time trials, then modified hot laps, but they brought the modifieds out first, and their own version of track packing, essentially let them all run about 20 laps in 2 different sessions. It was like
yeah,
8 cars and 8 cars or something like that, or 7 and 8 cars, and just let them rip and burn a bunch of fuel and try to get the top layer off to get the track more ran in, essentially, which I was fine with. I mean, got to see those guys, pulling the left front up, digging in, trying to figure out how to run it, because it really wasn't like, it was a little slimy early, but as they got going, you could see those guys were like pitching the car, and it was kind of fun to watch, like all of them kind of maneuver their car differently to try to get around the track. So, and hey, and Adam White, hey man, thanks for chiming in. This is our feature winner, by the way, in our 602 crates.
cheers.
This is the feature winner. This guy won by 11 seconds in a 602 crate mod race. Like I looked around and I'm like, I'd hear the leader go by and it was just like quiet. And I'm like, where the hell's oh, here comes the field. So just straight dominated the field. And he got out under his interview and was like, I didn't know where they were. And then we were like, Dave Hare was like 11 seconds. He was like, oh. Like he was racing like they were on his tail. And you don't know, right? This isn't late model country where they got the sticks, so these are real race car drivers out here. I'm just kidding, late model people. I'm just kidding.
But he's not kidding.
I'm sort of kidding. Okay, but
but yeah, I saw that they were bringing in 50 truckloads of dirt today of new clay, so that should be good for next year. A lot of tracks doing that right now. This is the time of year for that to happen, so it's good to see that. Grayson Buckwalter here in the chat said, I don't normally get to see the fan side of things. However, I was so happy and impressed to see how many kids were there, which is so important to keep this sport afloat. Absolutely.
Yeah. And BAPS, listen, I'm sorry, Jimmy. And
BAPS
does a good job with this too. BAPS does a really, really good job with the kid interaction. I grew up going to BAPS. I was a kid going to BAPS. I feel like they've continued sort of that tradition of, I don't want to say this to actually a bad way to other tracks, but like you see kids at Williams Grove, but it doesn't feel like a kid friendly track. Right? Lincoln does in a sense with the infield.
Mm-hmm.
Williams Grove has it, but I feel like BAPS has always sort of had that family, almost like a small track field type thing, a Linda's or like small track stuff, but they are becoming a premier track in Pennsylvania, but they're doing all the things and have the kids show up. And I think part of that is their normal Saturday night shows, a little less expensive. It may or may not go late, multiple divisions, you get to see a lot of cars. I just feel like they do a good job with that, and the parents brought them out for this show too. So, Grayson, I agree. Whenever I go to BAPS, I feel like I see kids running around everywhere all the time.
And,
so,
and back,
pretty cool.
like you said, for being there for those Saturday night regular shows, those teams have their whole families there. Like the sportsman drivers, the stocks, everyone has their literal whole family there, and there's kind of like a pride, like when they're not racing and there's 410s going on, they still want to go and support
Yeah,
BAPS and everything that they're doing there. So it definitely shows the commitment BAPS has to those teams and vice versa, even on their regular scheduled Saturday night stuff.
no doubt.
Anything else from BAPS this past weekend? Just fantastic job all around. For me, I love going to that race every year. It's like the end of the season. It feels like a football game. You're dressed up like it's football weather, and you know you have usually great racing there. And this completely exceeded my I don't want to say exceeded my expectations, but it met it and then some. Made that race so much more of an event now this year.
Yeah, and I've attended this race for, I don't know, every year they've had it in recent memory, and I love it. It is considered my home track, and right up the street, and it's an easy, it's a daytime deal. It gets cold, but I expect to be cold, right? It's November. We're gonna have Thanksgiving dinner in like 2 weeks or a week. Like I expect it to be cold. I'm not bitching about the cold. I don't bitch about the cold at the icebreaker. I want to be cold because I'm at a racetrack. I don't give a shit how cold it is.
Right.
If they're racing, I'm going to be there, right? So no, it's a super cool event. I love going. I couldn't be like I couldn't be happier or more thankful for the whole team at BAPS. Like doing the photography deal, they invited me in last year. The other photographers there are awesome. Gary and Tim, they were very welcoming. Got to shoot there last year, this year, and I've attended every event, or I have loved every event I attended. I do want to make it a point next year to get there on a normal Saturday night, not just a 410 show. I want to get to more events there. They've earned my ticket, and I want to go back and see more. So shout out to BAPS, great weekend. Hopefully they made out. To be fair, I hope they made out well too financially, because they put up, that was a big risk for them. I hope they made out financially well, because they did a hell of a job.
Those stands were so full, man. I mean, you could even see it in some of the replay from Sprint Car Unlimited, just packed grandstands. It was great to see. Chris Gray says, I wish tracks had family sections. I do know Port Royal has one. They have a family section right there next to the start finish line. I'm not sure about the Lincoln or Williams Grove.
Lincoln has a sandbox. That's the family section. If you just stay away from like exit of 4, where the adult kids are,
Mm-hmm.
you stay a little bit over toward the flagpole. It's a little bit better for the kids and that whole area. But it's not a sectioned off area for families. But at Lincoln, I would say it rivals BAPS a little bit with the freedom and the openness in the infield there, with the sandbox, and kids are always playing soccer and throwing footballs around. Um, Lincoln's pretty family friendly that way.
Yeah. Port Royal, not only do they have the section of grandstands, but they also have a section of the infield where it's a family section right there, beginning of the pit lane on the front stretch. Yeah. So,
and it's a big open area, and there's rarely like tons of people in it. Kids can, you can go out there. You don't even have to put them on a leash; they can just run. They can just run back and forth till they fall over.
There are tracks that have it. That's for sure. But it's definitely something that's interesting to see as it develops. Gets a little bit from track to track. So we'll go from BAPS. We'll go to Williams Grove real quick before we get into the report cards, because the bridge came down the same day as on Saturday. We all knew it was coming. It's kind of weird seeing the pictures of how bare that backstretch looks now, but we know there's supposed to be another bridge that's put in.
March is what
the foundation's already there. It looks
March.
like.
That's what I read on the comments. Someone said it's going up in March, which I'm guessing they're doing right before the opener. Bold.
They're going to be. I was going to say that's going to be cutting it close, unless they push the start of the season back or something, or they just do something else. You just have to. Maybe you have to cross over to backstretch for a little bit, or
maybe they do a deal where they just pause everything, get people across, and go again, and they'll figure it out, or not. But whatever, maybe they're gonna pray for snow. I don't know, but water table's too high, Jimmy. In March, they won't race. So,
but yeah, it's definitely weird. The bridge isn't going very far. It's going to EMMR. where they're gonna. I'm assuming they're gonna put it up on their track, or I don't know how they're gonna do it, but it's a very iconic bridge. So it's gonna be very weird to go there next year and see either no bridge or a brand new bridge. It was something that needed to be done, though. That's for sure. It definitely, it needed some type of upgrade. So, any other thoughts on that? Just
No.
All right. Let's get into it then. Let's get into our 2023 driver report cards. And I'm going to pull this up here. What's the best way to do it? Is that too small?
I'm good.
Good. Can we
You make us as small as possible, and that's the part of the show here. It doesn't matter what we look like. It's with that. There you go.
Yeah, if I'll take the chat off and I'll click the best.
No, you know what?
As we go through
Chat
these here.
the chat needs to stay up.
That's what I'm saying. It's just hard for me to read that. I put the percentage on the viewer, on the viewer votes. There were a lot of ties. We got 89 responses or something like that, and the amount of ties were crazy.
What do you mean ties?
Like there was an even amount. 34% voted A, and 34% voted A+ for Brad Sweet.
Oh, nice.
So, like an example like that. So we have a couple like that, and most of those are like it's the difference between a plus and a minus or something like that. Pretty much right in that same realm. So,
and hey, shout out real quick, Jason Adams, newer page for me, Sprint Car News and Media, Facebook page. He's been sharing some of my content on the page, so check out those guys. Hey, he's thanking me, but I appreciate you guys sharing my stuff out there, and it's my second year in that photo game, and I appreciate anybody that shares my work and appreciates it. It's for you, it's for people to enjoy like I do. So I appreciate you guys. So Brad Sweet, pretty unanimous here. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah. 13 total wins, 44 top 5, 64 top 10s. His one DNF was a show up points race at the Knoxville prelim. It wasn't even DNF, it was a DNS. Finished every race. It's one reason why I won the points title. That's just how they roll. They're consistent. They finish races. They don't wreck. They don't have many, things happen. Don't get me wrong. They get their time in the work area. That's for sure. But you can't have too much of a better season than what Brad Sweet had. 5 years in a row now. And so for me, before we get too far into this, I think everybody kind of graded, had their own reasons for grading these drivers. Me, I went like 60-40, their direct competition. So like Outlaws, your true Outlaws and All-Stars, and then your Posse guys. Kind of had those in 3 different groups, kind of ranked, I don't want to say ranked them, but kind of bounced them off of each other. And then also your expectations of these drivers going into the season and what you expect out of them. And that's kind of where we went. And I got a whole list of stats here to try to back up some of this. But I think we all agree. We all agree A+. I mean,
it's hard not to. It's five championships in a row at the highest levels of the sport. It's hard not to. And really, it was the consistency to finish races. Don't take DNFs, you'll win. When Donnie Schatz was in his prime, he didn't have DNFs. Period. He may have dominated with the points title way more with wins, top 5s, but he never DNF'd. And you add in all those wins he would make without DNFs, it's domination. Brad Sweet won this year by not having DNFs because some of the statistics you look at with these other guys we're going to talk about, they're pretty darn close as far as rivaling it with top wins, top 10s, and top 5s. So it was really about him finishing races.
Yes. And finishing so well. I counted out of all of his races this year, there was only 9 that he didn't have a top 10 in. 9 races that he didn't finish in the top 10 out of 80 races that he raced this year or whatever, 78 or something like that. Only 9 of them without a top 10, not counting the Knoxville prelim night where he didn't make the feature. But he had 11 Outlaw wins, 13 total when you count he won the prelim night of the Eldora Million, and he won the All-Star race down in Volusia. Chris, what were your what do you think about Brad Sweet this year?
I mean, you can't argue. I mean, outlaw champion, and he's just even when they had a bad night, they'd still finish top 5, 7th, 8th. They were not losing any ground on a bad Brad Sweet night. Still a really good night for most people.
Yeah.
He didn't have, I would say, that the marquee wins that he probably wanted, but it doesn't take away from the overall season and what he accomplished.
Totally agree. So, viewers also agreed. 34% voted A, 34% voted A plus. So, right there, just what else can you say? We'll go into the next driver, the driver that he competed against, David Gravel. We all went with an A. 24% of the viewers went with A. 24% of the viewers went with A plus. When you look at David Gravel's stats, he had 13 wins total as well, 12 outlaw, 1 high limit. He won the $250,000 race at Huset's, 47 top 5s, 61 top 10s, 4 DNFs. That ends up being the difference probably in the points there, and that's one reason why I didn't give him an A plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking about equal competition, Brad Sweet sets the bar. It's hard to give an A plus. This is an A plus season if he's competing against anybody but Brad Sweet all year.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the hard part about this. And that's shitty to you be like, oh, it's not an A plus. It's a great year. He had a great year. But when you compete against Brad Sweet, you're winning a championship to get an A plus. That's just where I'm at.
Sure, and there's a spell there, I think midsummer, where the championship was really tight with him and Macedo and Brad Sweet, and he kind of just went missing. Like he wasn't